Aloha and welcome to Better Government. I'm Representative Gene Ward, and this is part 2 of a dialogue on broadband. The Broadband Task Force from 2007, which then met in 2009. And I have with me 2 experts to say where it's been and where it's going and where we are vis-a-vis your internet service should be hopefully in a couple of years a bit faster than it is right now. I have the director of the DCCA, the Department of Consumer Advocacy and Protection, Larry Reifurth. Larry, welcome back to part 2. And Professor David Lassner, who was the chair of the Broadband Task Force in 2009. And we get the perspective of some of the problems that we went through the last time. Let's review the definition of what we're talking about in terms of the internet speed and how slow we are vis-a-vis the rest of the nation. You want to give a capsule version of that?
Sure. Broadband is typically, can be easily defined as high-speed, always-on access to services, most importantly, the internet data services. Hawaii does, we have pretty good availability in Hawaii through cable modems, DSL, and some of the wireless services. However, as a nation, the U.S. has dropped dramatically over the last decade, and whereas in a place like Japan, it's common to be able to get 100 megabits, million bits per second service for in the range of $30 a month, and they have plans to drive that up to 1,000 megabits per second or a gigabit per second. In Hawaii, we're sort of hovering where the high-speed services, like a turbo Roadrunner, is in the 10 to 15 megabit per second range. So that'll give you a feel, 10 to 15 versus 100 going on 1,000.
And in terms of the U.S., we are number what?
Oh, it depends which measure you decide to use, but probably between 15 and low 20s on most of the metrics.
Even though the advertiser said we were 47th in the nation in terms
Hawaii
of speed.
Came out 47th in the nation among the 50 states on one of the speed tests that was done recently.
And the speed tests, I don't know if you have any numbers, Larry or David. Everybody wants to see it, they just don't want to read it anymore. YouTube is the way of the future. If it's not on YouTube, people tend to, well, let's say the interest to get into something in more detail. What percentage of the internet now is literally video or the YouTube type?
I'm going to guess
stuff?
that it's more than 50%. And during our work with the Broadband Task Force, and we had a vice president from Cisco out and many others, clearly video is driving the growth in capacity. And it's not just entertainment video. You can think of it as business video conferencing for telework. You can think of it as video consultations with your doctor for healthcare. So it's a variety of video-based applications, as well as, of course, entertainment. I think, interestingly, the move of entertainment video from traditional TV formats like this one to the internet is definitely starting to take place now and accelerating.
Yeah, my daughter doesn't even watch TV anymore. She watches it on the computer.
Right. Again, the wave of the future may be literally that, carrying your TV, your computer around.
That's right.
I didn't mean that YouTube was the entertainment side, because I think, or did you mean that YouTube was primarily entertainment? Because I think it's not only news, informative, even the political debate of America is being driven by a lot of YouTube
I think
stuff.
that's right, but I want to be fair to traditional video as well, that the same thing goes. I don't know, is CNN entertainment?
And
then I'll ask you the same question about Fox News.
About Fox, well,
be fair.
We want to be fair and balanced for all of you out here to know that what we are, though, is in a crisis. We have Korea 12 times faster than Hawaii, 3 times faster than America. Right. And Korea is going gangbusters in their economy. But if we're going to keep up with it, we've got to make some changes. Now, in the last session, Larry, you said that we're trying to put an umbrella over the regulatory framework. We're trying to bring in the cable company and the telephone company. Why didn't that succeed? What happened and why didn't it succeed?
Well, you never know why things fail when they fail at the legislature.
But when you're in this building, you never know what's going to happen. Right?
Yeah, you might know better than I do exactly what happened. But it didn't pass. The bill remains in conference committee, so it's poised to pass. It would need quite a bit of change from where it stands right now in conference committee, but we submitted something at the end of last year. We think we've got agreement on the vast majority of it, and folks could just move forward. But there might well be a different plan this year.
Is there anything going on in the interim session? I mean, we're still a few months away from the 2010 session. Are there discussions going on with any of the task force members? David, I know you dismissed us as the task force, but are the primary stakeholders talking?
To be clear, the task force, the legislation that established the task force had a sunset date. That sunset date was June 30, 2009, so the task force no longer exists. That's the law. My understanding is there are legislators talking about how to try and get this bill through. As Larry said, it wasn't killed, it just didn't pass. So it's ready to have conferees named, and hopefully it'll move forward.
So it's alive and well, and the timing.
I wouldn't give it a but I'd say it's alive.
Well, why I say that is because the Obama administration has now put out $7.2 billion, if I recall correctly, $7.2 billion to get the internet infrastructure or the broadband infrastructure in the nation up to speed. What is going on vis-a-vis Hawaii? How much have we asked for, and what are we going to do with it? Do you guys?
Let me take it first, because you've got the bigger chunk of it. But the first thing that our department has done, first of all, Governor Lingle directed us. She said, the bill failed, that doesn't mean I want to stop pursuing this. DCCA, I want you to move forward. I want you to move forward on applying for broadband stimulus monies. I want you to be the point department as you were through the last session and trying to get the bill resuscitated for next year. What the department did is it has submitted an application for monies to allow us to map broadband use within the state. I think that there are many within the state, within the legislature, who view that as the necessary first step in order to develop a comprehensive understanding of where we stand in who's got what and where throughout the state in terms of broadband availability. So DCCA has itself submitted an application for that proposal. It's Manini compared to what David and others are doing in more substantive areas, but it needs to come first. Now David's got some more substantive.
Would you put Hawaii on the map? Because that was one of my big concerns when it didn't pass. We weren't the first standing in line for the funds, of which otherwise there was only a handful of states that. Remember the guy from Kentucky came and he said, if you could do this and that, there's money that's there waiting, never at the amounts of $7.2 billion. How much did you guys ask for?
I think the mapping is just in the nature of a couple of $1 million.
Okay, to kind of do the planning.
Yeah, it's just a start.
So the big bucks, David, you're going to speak to.
Well, yeah, I mean, to step back, the stimulus bill, or ARRA, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, how's that? Had a whole section about broadband. There was a whole section about a mapping program that Larry described. Each of the 50 states was invited to submit a proposal and did. So that's out of one pot of money. There's a second activity which takes place within the FCC. They were charged to develop a national broadband strategy. So that's huge, even though it's not a big chunk of money. Having a national strategy, if they are successful, may make more of a difference than anything else we're doing. And the data ideally will inform that strategy. The third piece is the one that gets all of the attention, and that's the $7.2 billion in funding that's available for loans and grants for actual deployment of telecom infrastructure. And there are a couple of smaller programs, one for public computer centers and one for what they call sustainable broadband adoption programs. So those applications have been invited, lots of applicants. I think there were 60 or so different organizations that proposed to do something in Hawaii. So that could be a very large Hawaii-based proposal, or it might be an organization that planned to do something in all 50 states, including Hawaii. So those are kind of all over the map, and those proposals are now being evaluated by the federal agency.